In August, the situation on the front near Leningrad took a turn for the worse. The division moved to the front lines, taking half of our class with them as reinforcements. Soon all of them perished in the battles. Once again, my guardian angel spared me. I remained with the other half. Then the bombings began. The first one in early September was particularly striking. On a quiet sunny day, a distant hum suddenly filled the air. Its source unknown, the sound grew louder and louder, windows began to rattle, and everything around us started to vibrate. In the clear sky, far in the distance, an armada of planes appeared. They flew in formation at varying altitudes, slowly and confidently. Anti-aircraft shells burst all around, like tufts of cotton in the blue sky. The artillery fired frantically, yet it had no effect on the planes. They didn't even maneuver or break the formation, as if entirely unaware of the barrage, steadily flying toward their target. The yellow wingtips and black crosses on the fuselages were clearly visible. We sat in trenches, deep channels specially dug for shelter. It was utterly terrifying. I suddenly realized that I was hiding under a piece of tarp. In early October, those who had completed the training course were sent to Levashovo station for field practice. There, in the summer camp of the artillery school, we spent a month. Winter came early that year, with snow falling and staying on the ground until spring. The practice mostly consisted of sitting in the freezing cold and maintaining radio communication between separate groups of cadets. We were getting used to cold and hunger, though real starvation didn't set in yet. Living on 300 grams of bread a day was manageable. Still, we gathered acorns, chewed on the bark, and dreamt of being assigned to kitchen duty. One day, the first platoon got lucky, but when they returned in the evening, they ended up vomiting on us, the second platoon, who was sleeping on the lower bunks. Unaccustomed to sudden feasts, they had overeaten and upset their stomachs. Despite this, spirits remained high. We still joked, even about the lack of food. One night we spent hours on radio duty, sitting in a snowdrift. There was no one else around. At some point, a German propaganda broadcast aimed at Russians came through the radio waves. We decided to listen. We weren't particularly struck by the news of yet another army being defeated, nor by the figures of losses, prisoners, and captured equipment. What truly shocked us was hearing the announcer refer to Budyonny and Voroshilov, figures always praised in the highest terms, as inept amateurs in military affairs. At the time, we only vaguely grasped the seriousness of the situation. We knew Leningrad was teetering on the brink of collapse, but thought of outright defeat was never on our minds. The clumsy German propaganda didn't have much effect on us, though the overall mood was undeniably grim. In early November, we were brought back to the cold, windowless barracks in Leningrad. Before heading to the front, our company was assigned to patrol the city. We checked documents and detained suspicious individuals. Among those we detained were stragglers from encircled units, survivors who had somehow escaped from the enemy's traps. These people were a harrowing sight. Skeletal figures with sunken features, their bones wrapped in weathered brown skin. The city has changed drastically since August. Shrapnel scars were everywhere, and many buildings had gaping holes like hollow tree trunks, exposing their interior as if sliced open. Beds or wardrobes still clung precariously to fragments of floors in some places, and walls were still adorned with clocks and paintings. It was cold, damp, and oppressively bleak. Even Claude's iconic horse statues had been removed. The Yusupov Palace was damaged, and a massive crack ran the full height of the Museum of Ethnography. The spires of the Admiralty and the Peter and Paul Cathedral were hidden under dark, protective coverings, while the dome of St. Isaac Cathedral had been painted in dull neutral tones for camouflage. Anti-aircraft guns were buried in the city's parks, their barrels pointed skywards. Occasionally, German shells would scream overhead and explode in the distance. Amid all this, the steady ticking of the metronome played on, a reminder of life under siege. The wind carried yellow leaves, bare branches, and scraps of dirty paper through the streets. The city was shrouded in a heavy, somber mood. Our post was near the Philharmonic Hall, and the kind passerby let my mother know where I was stationed. This allowed us to meet one last time, and she'd brought some food. The night of November 7th saw an especially brutal bombing raid. Rumor had it that Hitler himself had promised this attack to the people of Leningrad. The next morning, despite ongoing shelling, we marched to Finland Station. From there, we were crammed into freight cars and transported to the Ladoga Lake Station. That night we slept in the train, literally stacked on top of each other. Oddly enough, this turned out to be a blessing, as it was 20 degrees below freezing outside. The only way to stay warm was by pressing close to the person next to you. In the morning, we were safely loaded onto an old ship, repurposed as a gunboat, from a bomb-damaged pier. The crossing over Lake Ladoga was uneventful. The sky was overcast, the waves were high, and a storm raged, but no enemy planes appeared. Still, the icy wind cut through us, and we were huddled against the ship's chimney for warmth. During this journey, I struck a lucky deal, trading half a piece of dry bread with stingy Yurka Voronov for free hard candies. At the moment, it felt like a small fortune.